What is up, guys? I am going to be casting a TVZ this time from the North American ladder, and on the bottom right position of Ohana it is ISG BLord spawning as the red Zerg, and in the top left hand position we have SmokeCocaine spawning as the blue Terran. I did look these guys up, and SmokeCocaine is at the top of his Master's Division at the moment, and ISG BLord is at the lower end of the Grandmaster League. So these guys should be of equal skill, and this replay did come from the recommended section of a replay website that I do use. So this game should be pretty intense and pretty good. We'll see what kind of play these guys pull out, you know. Obviously, when you're close to Grandmasters or in Grandmasters, especially on the regions like NA or EU or Korea, you should be pretty close to at least a semi-professional level, and so these guys should show us some pretty good games right here. And Ohana is a really good map for mech for Terran, just because it's so narrow. The third is quite easily defendable together with the natural ramp if you wall that off. And Zerg does have some trouble against mech on this map if you don't respond properly. Last night in the GSL, Marine King did try to go mech multiple times, and a build that seemed to work out for the Zergs pretty well is a maxed roach drop timing, where you drop all your roaches from the overlords on top of the Terran mech army. Around the time it hits, the tank count just isn't large enough, and if you don't unsiege your tanks fast enough, or if the Terran does not retreat away from the roaches being dropped and kind of secure a position which from his tanks can shoot, the roaches do just kind of tear the tanks up. If the roaches are dropped on top of the tanks do splash damage against each other, and it looks like BLord, which is what I'm going to call him this game, does go for a 14 pool, and then after that a 15 hatch. On the slightly safer side of things, on the other hand, SmokeCocaine does look like he did go for a 1 Rax expand, a very standard. Apart from that slightly earlier pool, this game is pretty standard, and even so a 14 pool isn't like that uncommon in the TVZ matchup anyways. And it looks like a double gas is on the way for SmokeCocaine, so this is looking to be a reactor Hellion opening. And the overlords are moving into position to be able to scout any sort of drops, as well as this overlord being positioned here. It did spot that command center, and now it is spotting for these 2 gases right now. Quite a good telltale for when a Terran is going mech is securing these gases quite early on compared to when you go Marine tank. But it looks like both guys are macroing up pretty hard, and wow, I was wrong. So it looks like SmokeCocaine is adding 2 more barracks behind the initial barracks. No bunker as of now. He hasn't seen any sort of aggressive stance from the Zerg, so he is kind of confident in his ability to hold any sort of attack with 2 Marines. Tech Lab does finish, and it looks like Combat Shield is out on the way. This looks like it's going to be a 7-minute Combat Shield Marine timing on the 3rd. But SmokeCocaine does need to be careful, because if the Zerg is teching off 2 base, this build can get hard countered pretty hard, and so he just needs to be careful to scout properly and only push out when he really needs to. And looks like it might be slightly different actually, because the way the 7-minute 7:30 Combat Shield Marine timing works is that you just pump Marines off 2 naked barracks and 1 Tech Lab barracks, but looks like SmokeCocaine is opting to go for a double reactor on his 2 extra barracks. And looks like BLord is slightly supply blocked here. No overlords on the way. That is a pretty big mistake on his part. One is does get started just now, and he also secures his 3rd base here. He doesn't want his money to pile up too hard in this supply block, so it's a good choice. And 2 gases have been put down for the Zerg, and he is mining off both right now. A Queen does pop out. And it looks like BLord is opting to concentrate on his creep spread. Creep spread on this map is really good because it is one of the smaller maps. The creep just goes across the field real fast, and it can just scout some really nice timing attacks from the Terran, which can be shut down pretty hard. Looks like Stim is started straight after combat shields does finish. Starport, as well as a reactor on the factory, does start. So SmokeCocaine is doing kind of like this looks like a TVP build. The +1 attack is on the way. It's exactly the standard TVP build at this point. I would expect SmokeCocaine to push out around 10 minutes with 2 to 4 medevacs, depending on if he wants to wait for medevac number 3 and 4, and try to put on some pressure, you know. And those look like a bunch of Marines do move out now, because that Overlord, did scout this starport timing, and this is kind of like a counterintuitive thing to do. The Zerg does expect the Terran now to wait for his medevacs before pushing out, and looks like as those Zerglings secured the watchtower, they did spot the edge of the Marines in that watchtower range. So he knows this is coming. A bunch more lings are being pumped out, and we'll see what kind of damage these Marines can get done. At this point, with these Queens as well, the creep nearly connecting to the third base, I don't think these Marines are going to get too much done. They do manage to pick off one drone. They do start step back quite nicely, but with the Zerglings and Queens DPSing Marines down from the back, I do think this is going to get held off pretty nicely by BLord. And behind his +1 armor is on the way for the Terran, as well as his third command center. And he does start working down these rocks with his Marines. The first 2 medevacs have popped out, and a bunch more barracks coming out, as well as the tech lab on the factory. So tank production should commence pretty soon now. And BLord has his lings positioned here outside at the bottom of the natural ramp, and he does go to the third to check if it has. If it has been plopped down yet, and he sees that it's not there yet, but he should expect it to come there anytime soon, and these lings are here to spot it anyways. So you should get a really nice idea of when the third base does land. BLord is securing his 5th and 6th gas, and a spire is coming down, as well as a baneling nest. Centrifugal hooks for the banelings. So it does look like he has opted to go for the Ling Baneling Muta style. Roachhorn did go down earlier, and that doesn't hurt the Zerg too much at all, even though he's not going into that tech path. You know, the Zerg has the best. Sorry, the Zerg has the easiest time transitioning into different types of tech, and just because of the fact that all their production facilities are just hatcheries, and the tech structures just give the hatcheries the ability to make different units. And SmokeCocaine is waiting quite a while before securing his third base. He should have been able to do it behind this Marine pressure, but it does look like he is going to do it now. And yeah, BLord is content to just sit back, although it does look like he is moving out, trying to catch these Marines, and it looks like the Lings do surround the Marines, and allowing the Banelings to crash into them without any splits coming off. The fourth base has been secured for BLord, and losing that many Marines, that cost inefficiently, hurts SmokeCocaine quite a lot, and his ability to be aggressive on the map has been diminished by quite a large, significant amount. And a bunch of mutas are coming out, as well as a bunch of Lings. +2/+2 is coming out for the melee, as well as the carapace, and +1 flyers is coming out as well. This also almost looks like a Terran 2-2-1 timing. Infestation pit is coming down as well, and look at these Marines working against the creep, trying to hinder its spreading, but it looks like all these Marines and medevacs should get taken out with these mutas over here to target down these medevacs, and these medevacs are just flying to their doom. If anything, he should try to fly them back into his base, but looks like he is just going to leave them here to die, and that's slightly unfortunate. But the supplies aren't too bad right now for SmokeCocaine. He has been able to, make his presence known on the map throughout the game so far with his Marines. Both of his attacks so far haven't been too effective, but they have forced the Zerg to be at quite a low amount of drones. SmokeCocaine is actually ahead in workers right now, which is a really nice spot to be as a Terran. But the army for BLord is looking quite formidable at this point, and 3 tanks together with these Marines should do quite nicely against this kind of composition, but it all comes down to how well SmokeCocaine is able to target fire the banelings with his tanks. The tanks are only 1 tank is sieged, and looks like the banelings are going to crash into these Marines. The Marines do a nice job of splitting, and they do take down some workers here. Only 7 though, so it's not too significant. BLord has been able to just smack this attack down without taking too many losses, and I feel like BLord is in a really nice spot to transition into the late game as his hive is on the way. SmokeCocaine has a really small contingency of units here, just kind of trying to hold this watchtower, but with this big of an army from BLord pushing forward, he just could not hold that. And right now it's looking really bleak for SmokeCocaine. His army is abysmal. It's his bunker full of Marines, these Marines, and this medevac at this point. And BLord doesn't really need to push. He just needs to wait for SmokeCocaine to keep... he just needs to do what he's been doing this whole time. He just kind of needs to wait for SmokeCocaine to make a move, and you know, keep crushing these pushes, and he should be in a really nice spot. And it does look like SmokeCocaine does load up a drop. This is a nice move to do to kind of pin your opponent to their base to try and defend them instead of attacking you. But it does look like the drop does pull back because these lings over here do spot it. It looks like the Mutalisks, large amount of Mutalisks right now, 16 Mutalisks are out, and they do go into the main sniping attack. They might get this engineering bay with the +2 attack about to finish. If this goes down, this is going to hinder the Terran army quite a bit, and it does look like it does not finish. That is a really big deal right there. The 2-2-1 timing is kind of ruined now, as the Marines will only have +1 attack. And you know, 2-2 is where the bio really gets kind of scary for the Zerg, but you know, having sniped off that engineering bay, he should be feeling pretty damn good at this point. The Terran should really start that +2 as soon as possible, and he is making another engineering bay, so the +3 armor can also start pretty nicely. And he does have 3 factories out, so his tank production is rolling quite nicely. +3 is out on the way for the Zerg as well, and this drop in the main is doing a quite a nice job of shooting away those drones. And it does look like they do try to target down the spawning pool, but it does not go down. The spawning pool, it is researching adrenal glands. That does increase the attack of the Zerglings by 20%. It makes them a lot more powerful. And 7 Ultras are on the way for BLord right now. 7, that is a lot of tanking power, and especially with the lack of Marauders in this Bioforce. He does have quite a few tanks though, so this army shouldn't do too bad, but still 7 Ultralisks together with this amount of Banelings, I do feel like it will crush this army quite easily. And it does look like SmokeCocaine is trying to push across the map as fast as possible. He needs to get some damage on him. He knows he hasn't done enough damage this game. And look at this, the counterattack that was ready here. It does move into the 3rd base, and it does force the 3rd to lift off. And look at this, the engagement in front of the 4th does happen as well. And the tanks were unsieged. Looks like SmokeCocaine was not paying attention. He was looking back here to deal with this run by, and that run by killed 28 workers. The worker count is really bad for the Terran right now. It's looking quite bleak for him at this point. He is starting to mix in some Thors. Thors are actually surprisingly good against Ultralisks, as well as a Baneling-centric army. If the Zerg does not target fire the Banelings onto the Marines and they start hitting Thors, you do end up wasting quite a lot of them, and with their 66 damage, because they do attack twice against the Thors, they should do quite nicely against them. One tank was hiding here. He was the only survivor of that last attack. He does pull back now. But looking at SmokeCocaine's supply, I don't feel like this is a good enough... I don't think he has a big enough army, or a good enough army to push out against the maxed out Zerg right now. The army is slightly out of position though, and a few Marines do run this way to kind of distract the army, and wow, this is 10 Ultralisks out on the field for the Zerg, and looks like the Zerg does move in from the back. The Thors are trying to attack the Mutas, and which isn't exactly the most cost-efficient thing. They should be attacking the Ultralisks, and that army does get crushed yet again. BLord has just been doing so nicely against every single attack. Every single time SmokeCocaine pushes out, BLord just seems to be ready for it. You know, he seems to have the perfect army to hold it off. And these Marines do try to target down this 5th hatchery, but it does look like this army gets here in time to kill them off. But this hatchery is quite low on health, and later on drop should take this out quite easily. A 4th base is trying to be secured for the Terran. The Zerg has nothing here to spot it, so he won't know about it for a little bit. But yeah, the supplies are still heavily in favor of the Zerg right now. The Terran is basically on 2 base economy right now. If this 4th does not get fully secured, he is in a really bad position. The tanks aren't sieged yet again. BLord has been pretty lucky this game, catching the tanks unsieged multiple times, and with this amount of Ultralisks, SmokeCocaine is forced to tap out of this game. Really nice game from both sides, but looks like BLord, with his Grandmaster skills, did come out on top. Thanks, guys, for watching, and see you guys next time.